So as you know, if there are any questions anytime during this meeting, you're welcome to pose the question. I believe with the Zoom platform, you need to unmute your mic and then you can be on the air. So if you can turn your attention to the presence, the peace, the stillness, the aware presence. Whatever is appearing to you right now, is appearing effortlessly. In complete transparency. Irrespective of whatever is appearing, it is appearing in complete transparency, meaning in its complete nakedness. It doesn't matter if the thought that is arising is a pink colored thought or a dark purple colored thought. It appears effortlessly without any personal doership. And your knowingness of the thought that appears whichever form the thought is taking, whatever the content of the thought, your knowingness of that thought is complete and absolute. Even the thought, I don't know what he is talking about, for example. I know it doesn't apply to you. Even the thought, gee, I don't know what he's talking about, appears to you in its wholeness, in its fullness, in its, you're completely knowing of this thought. Whatever bodily sensation is arising, It arises in complete transparency, like the wind that blows over the field appears to you in complete transparency, nothing hidden. Your experience is always full and complete. It is not possible for you to have half an experience, a partial experience. You cannot partially be hearing these words because you're hearing them. You cannot partially be perceiving this perception. That is not possible. Even the thought, I am a separate entity, confirms your totality because you are fully knowing of that thought. 100% awareness. Awareness, presence, knowingness doesn't diminish or increase depending on what is the content of mind. If the content of mind is a stream looking over a stream, or if the content of mind is looking over the ocean, the knowingness of the stream, the awareness of the stream, the awareness of the ocean is the same awareness. There isn't such a thing as a lesser awareness or a smaller awareness. When you are looking over a stream, when the content of mind is a stream, and the larger, vaster awareness, when the content of mind is the ocean. In both cases, the activity of mind is that of looking, awareing, looking. All mind activities refer to awareness, refer to the formless knowingness, the formless presence. That does not depend on the content of mind. Tara, if you're available, yes. Thank you. Yes, I think. When you believe thought that says that you are limited, that you are born and you are destined to die, when you believe such a thought, you are also feeling that. You are feeling the sense of limitation. And within that perspective, you overlook the infinity and the transparency and the eternity of awareness. Before any thought arises, before any perception and sensation arises, I am. I know I am. Within I, there is the knowingness of I am. This absolute knowingness. This knowingness is veiled by the activities of thinking, feeling, sensing, emoting. The impression of this veiling is a forgetfulness of the infinity of the self. And as a result, the impression that I refers to a limited form. When this impression arises, there is unhappiness and the desire to be free of this sense of limitation, which is our desire for truth. All desires have within them our desire for truth, our love for truth, our desire for freedom. which is directed towards an object. When it is directed towards an object, then the activities of thinking and feeling are leading us towards the object. But in reaching the object, we do not find the objectless love, freedom, and joy, and peace of being. We only find an object which does not deliver the objectless happiness, the objectless love and peace and joy of being. And so thinking will lead us to the next object, to another object, to a better object, maybe a better relationship, a better experience. And on it goes. Until we realize that the happiness that we are seeking is not an object. The peace that we are seeking is not an object. The love that is not an object. The joy that is not an object. Then we find the interest in thinking and feeling and emoting and sensing and experiencing diminish. Our interest, those activities diminish. When we find ourselves in a higher contemplation, the contemplation of being, resting as being, contemplating being contemplating itself, recognizing the recognition of being as being the peace of being. Anyways, I don't want to talk much more than that. You are all veterans. So instead, if there are any questions or any comments or anything that you want to talk about, so any questions?
Magdi.
Hello, Holly.
Hey, I was listening to a talk of yours. I think it was kind of older, and you said something along the lines of discovering the porosity of the me feeling, or discovering the porosity of the me. And I liked that imagery. I was wondering if you could talk about that a little bit.
Yes. Like in your night dream, when you are dreaming that you are traveling on a boat, a cruise through the Caribbean, from the perspective of the character you are dreaming, who is on this boat with family or friends traveling, the boat, the trip, the cabin on the ship, the ocean, all of that seems very real, it is the content of the mind of that character that you are dreaming. So they may be having a really delicious dinner on the boat, masticating the food and enjoying the glass of wine, and it may feel and seem very real from the perspective of that character that you are dreaming is on the boat. So from the perspective of that character, the feeling, the me feeling of being on the boat, the thoughts they're having, the experiences they're having, the situations that they are experiencing, one could say they're dense in that they seem real from that perspective. And one could say that the mind of that character that you are dreaming, who is traveling on the boat, is turned towards its content, meaning it's turned towards the ship, the boat, the trip, the ocean, the activities on the boat. Its attention is turned towards the world and the content of its mind. So it is experiencing, from its perspective, a real world and a real personal self, the me feeling. But when that character somehow starts to wonder, the question arises for this character: what is the reality of my experience? Its attention will shift from being focused on the content of its mind to the discovery of what is the reality of this mind. And the focus of attention shifts. And as it shifts, the density or the opacity or the let's say, or the what seemed to be very concrete for that character in the dream, when that attention shifts, all these qualities become less concrete, less dense. Because now that it is contemplating what is the reality of my experience, it is moving away from that, from mistaking reality to be that which is constantly changing, like the waves on the ocean, like the boat, like the meals, like conversations that they were having with their friends and family. It's realizing that that could not be the reality of my experience because it's constantly changing. And now it's looking at what is it that is changeless. And when it looks at what is it that is changeless, it is now moving from the objective to the objectless. It's moving from the objects, the world of objects that are made out of matter, that are dense, to awareness, consciousness. When you look from a distance at something, you perceive a certain perception. For example, when you look at a forest from a distance, it seems to be a very dense mass of trees and bushes. But when you get closer to the forest, you walk towards it. The closer you walk towards it, the more you will perceive that there is space. You will find that there is distance between the trees. You will find there is room for you to walk into the forest, just as a metaphor. From a distance, meaning from looking from a place that is not involved in inquiry yet. Things seem to be solid, fixed. The world appears to be very solid, made out of matter, made out of objects. But when you get closer and closer, whether you're getting closer via electronic instruments, like scientists do, looking at an object and finding out that it's made out of electrons and atoms and molecules and so on, mostly space, or whether you're looking with a telescope and going into the cosmic realm and noticing that it's, they say, 99% space, or whether you look into what is the reality of your thoughts or of your feelings, fear or anxiety or concern. When you get closer to those feelings, closer to those thoughts, you will find that there is less and less there. From the perspective of a fixed entity that is the reality of my experience, let's say, what I take myself to be, let's say. From that perspective, I will experience the sense of lack and the fear of death. You will experience the sense of limitation, and you will experience the concern about your ending. So when we are experiencing certain feelings and emotions, it is a good idea, if possible, rather than to think about them or try to find a solution in the world via thinking and via feeling and via blaming and via regretting and via hoping, rather than trying to manipulate the situation, hoping for some outcome. If it's possible to simply be still and approach the feeling or approach the sensation closer and closer and closer and closer. Because what is approaching it is an interest. You're not approaching it in order to get rid of it, in order to fix it, or in order to overcome it. It's important that you approach it with your complete interest, but not a personal interest. You're approaching it because it's there, and you are there too. So it's a way of speaking, because we speak about approaching it only because we have a tendency to retract and contract. In fact, the experience is there 100%. It is fully available to us. So rather than retreating from it via thinking and via mentation and trickery of the mind, to be completely present to it. And when you are completely present, you will find that it is presence itself that is present. And presence is transparent. Presence is impersonal. Presence permeates the entire space. And you will find that what you are looking at is in fact made out of presence. In other words, it is presence looking at itself. From the perspective of awareness, by awareness I mean the reality, the one reality, the reality of your experience. From the perspective of awareness, there is no other reality. There is nothing outside of it. So whenever, quote unquote, awareness is looking at something, it's looking at itself. This something is nothing else but itself, seeming to be something. And as you contemplate, as you come closer, you look closer at what is it that you are looking at, you will find that there is nothing there but yourself. There is nothing that you are looking at. There is just yourself. Yourself, meaning awareness, permeates the entirety of your experience. The entirety of your experience is permeated by your very beingness. The entirety of your experience is made out of yourself, the aware presence, the transparent aware presence. There is no outside of that. There is no outside or inside. outside and inside are thoughts that arise, which is your very self taken on the form of a thought. You never, never, never leave yourself. How could you? How could you step out of yourself and be something? How could you become something that you are not? It's not possible. There is nothing that you are not. There is nothing outside of the transparency of being, what we refer to as I am. There is no reality outside of the I am. I am is fully available and fully obvious to all of us. Of course, many of us are not interested in that, and they're not looking at that. They're looking at what is the next step of the ladder that they can climb. But irrespective of the content of particular minds, the obviousness of I am is available to all of us. Anybody that you ask the question, am I, are you? They'll answer, yes, I am. Without thought, there's a direct knowingness. In a way, for the human mind, the I am is a high meditation for the people that are interested in that. Actually, we do the I am, but we add to it, I am this or that or that. We bring in objects into the objectless I am. And we fill the mind with objects. And as we fill the mind with objects, we become very engaged in thinking and feeling and emoting and managing the objects and trying to improve the objects, and the purity of I am, which is always present, is overlooked with the content of the mind. But every appearance refers to its knowingness, refers to the aware presence, the transparent beingness, which is its reality. So we can use the so-called forms to track their source. And in tracking the source of the form, we come to the transparency, we come to the formless reality of being. Did I move away from your question, Holly?
I don't think so. I think you maybe expanded a little bit, but I think that was right on. I do notice as you're talking that that is true that the feeling sense in my body of me is something that I've been tuned into lately, and I appreciated what you said about being able to watch it without an
Yeah. You know,
agenda.
all feelings refer to their knowingness. In other words, all you know about the feeling is the awareness of it. In other words, all you know of a thought is awareness. And the content of thought is, you could say they're like the surface of the ocean, they're like waves. But the waves, the reality of the wave, the substance of the wave is water. The substance of the ocean is water. So you're always experiencing the ocean, the water, in the bodily sensations, in the feelings. When you become very interested in what is the shape of this wave as compared to that wave, and when you become interested in wave management, in organizing the waves, or in holding on to the good waves and trying to get rid of the smaller waves, and you want the bigger waves and you don't want the smaller waves, for example. It's a totally different direction, you see. Then you are in the realm of thinking and feeling what is the best strategy. See, then you are a strategist. And there is no end to that, of course. I mean, you could find other ways of classifying the waves, and you can always find more and more methods to work with the waves. So at the feeling level, when we become interested in fixing the feelings because we feel is something important for us to do, because we wouldn't do it if we didn't feel it was important. So we're under the impression that a better feeling is the way to go. And because we are now seeking a better feeling. We are working hard on trying to figure it out, how to feel better, to get a better feeling, you see. And we feel and believe that somehow there is a personal way about it, that I have some personal power that I can apply. Maybe it is my past experience or my spiritual prowess, or I don't know, my therapy methods. I can apply some method. And which would improve my feeling. And it's true that to a certain extent there is something to be said to that, but very small extent. In fact, when you fix a feeling, somehow you become successful at it, another one will pop up to become the new troubling feeling, the new troubling issue. Maybe in the past it was, I don't know, something about your money. Next it's something about your sister. Then it's something about your grandfather, and then it's about your boss. So even when you are successful with the feeling, it doesn't last. It's short-lived, and it doesn't really do the job, because you unknowingly you are overlooking your belief that you are a subject, you are a body-mind, that you are female or male, whatever the person. You are overlooking this assumption that is the process of thinking and feeling. That very belief within it is the entire process of thinking and feeling and thinking and feeling. Thinking and feeling pivots around the belief that I am a person. There's no way around it. Of course, we try to fix the situation. We try to alter, the conditions in which we live, etc. But because the core belief is still there, you see, something else arises.
And how about the feeling in the body that I am the body?
Yes, that's very, very important. Very important. Because you see, Holly, although we can come to an understanding that I refers to presence, refers to the formless aware presence, you see, the impersonal aware beingness. Although we can really understand that, there is another process that is very important, so that this understanding becomes your living experience. It sort of permeates your entire feeling state. Because the feeling state, like you're just saying, still has the me impression, the me feeling, that maybe is not as strong or as intense as it used to be previously, when we were under the complete ignorance of I am this person and you are that person. Obviously, the understanding that I am awareness has a profound impact on your perceptions and also your feeling state, but it doesn't fully permeate your entire being and the entire space of your experience. When I say the entire being, I'm not referring about body, or I'm not referring about all of your experience. It's in particular, at the feeling level. So invite this understanding to permeate your entire being. Welcome it, encourage it. You can encourage it by, rather than following the emotion, the surface emotion, and the surface of the ocean, the waves that may arise, because they will still arise, to go to their core. There is a beneath, or at the heart of the feeling, and permeating the entire feeling is the stillness and the bliss of the self. The stillness, the peace of being, God's infinity, but you need to dive within, at the heart, at the core of the feeling, rather than thinking and feeling and strategizing, which is some form of maintaining, the personal point of view, or the personal what we are holding on to, you see, as somehow the protectionist, protective approach, which is completely absent from the perspective of reality and from the perspective of awareness. There isn't a protective paradigm. What is there to protect? What you are protecting is what you're trying to free yourself of. The mirage, that there is something at stake, that that your happiness is a better feeling state, or a better situation, which is thinking. That's just thinking and feeling. And there is no end to that thinking and feeling. Is no end to that. So the me feeling at the body level, don't make it a problem. Dive into it. Don't judge it. Don't add to it a personal judgment or how it should be. There is no how it should be. There is within what seems to arise. There is God's grace. And within thinking, there is me and him, me and her, me and a better me or a worse me, or etc.
Yeah.
Within thinking, which is the activity of the personal self. Is the personal self is this activity of thinking and within thinking, there is the thinking that's very important. that thinking is very important, that thinking and feeling will deliver something. All of that is the content of thinking, is the activity of thought. And the activities of thought, meaning thinking, refers to the stillness and the peace of being, the awareness that is not thinking. It's not thinking. It's being. It is being. It is being. It is being. Being. So the I is this transparency, this presence. You see, I is the direct approach. I is this universal presence. Only one I. There isn't I and a better I. He has a better I. She has a worse I, etc. My I was better before. Now I am not as good. That's something. That's thinking. But to go directly, actually, it's not a going, because it is what I am. I am. I is, and that the I that is has no name and no age, no form, no gender, no location. It's not trying to fix the world or trying to have a better experience. All of that is thinking. And freedom of being is I. I is the freedom of being. It is within itself. It is that. It is the freedom. It is the joy. It is the buoyancy. It is the love. So I is universal. And love is universal. I is love, universal. So in the world, if you're working with something, then apply those principles, But of course, you don't need to apply any principles by going directly to I. Always go directly to I. I, transparent presence, you see? There is no possibility for any object to arise in the objectless. It's not possible for a judgment, which is an object, to arise in the objectless. It has no place to park itself. Objectlessness has no objects in it. It's not possible. And the I is this objectless reality, the peace of being, yes? So it's rather than moving in the improvement of the feelings, it's more like falling back into God's arms, sort of sinking deeper and deeper into being awareness, which is always present. You follow, Holly?
Yeah.
So you invite the mind to sink deeper and deeper into the heart of being. Every now and then thought will arise and say, well, let's go after this, let's go after that, let's do this, let's do that. Over and over, you invite it to sink into the heart of being. The core of being. Rather than thinking permeating your entire space, invite being to permeate your entire feeling state. Being. Any questions?
Magdi,
Yes, hello, Zoe.
Rashmi.
Oh, Rashmi, hello, Rashmi.
Hi. What's the importance of in Vedanta, they say there are like there's the waking dream, the sleeping dream, and then deep sleep, and then we are none of that. We are the consciousness that that observes or doesn't observe those states. So the sleeping dream is, like when you wake up, it's nothing. What about the waking dream? Like, is it nothing? Or, I mean, other than acting with dharma, like, what's the importance of what we do in our daily life?
There are two directions to take, let's say, in our waking dream, in our daily life. They're not exclusive. One of them is to contemplate within our daily life, within our waking dream, our waking experience, contemplate the reality of our experience. Meaning to ask ourselves, what is the substance? What is the substance of my experience? What is its reality? What am I? What is the reality of awareness? What is awareness? What is it? To sort of use this waking dream to go directly to the source. The other path, which again they're not exclusive, is to use this waking dream to live in this waking dream according to our understanding of what are the divine principles of love, generosity, kindness, respect, giving, fairness, etc. Freedom, recognizing the other as myself. In the first way of contemplating what am I truly, what is the reality of my experience, you are putting in question, or you're putting in suspension, you're suspending the belief that I am somebody, that I am Rashmi, that I'm a person, I'm a woman, mother, etc., blah, 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 blah. You're suspending that, you're going directly to what is it that is real. And in that exploration, in that way of inquiry, you quickly come to the reality of my experience is not its content. That the reality of my experience is the knowingness that never is not. In other words, that applies to everything equally. And so relatively quickly, you go beyond I am Rashmi, etc. You go beyond the thinking and feeling, and you're into the contemplation of the formless self. In the other method, which is more progressive, there is still the me character. There is still the Rashmi character who is living dharmically and purifying herself, purifying her mind. Until comes a point where the mind has been purified enough that it realizes that it is not journey, the meaning is not about purifying the mind, but it is about something else beyond that. And then you find yourself at the first approach, looking into what is the reality of my experience. This waking dream, this living, this experience, what we refer to as our waking life, is about what we love beyond anything, which is happiness, peace and happiness. In everything we do, even when we are buying a beautiful house, or when we are traveling with our family, or when we are putting our children in the best schools, or when we are trying very hard for our children to be successful, or when we're trying so hard to have a better relationship with our husband, in everything we do, we are looking for happiness. Happiness is our true nature. Like all the streams and all the rivers are looking to go to the ocean, as a metaphor. They are looking to flow to the ocean because their true nature is water, and they're returning to the source. Again, this is a metaphor. Similarly, as a separate entity, in other words, from the point of view of the belief and the feeling that I am born, that I, meaning consciousness, exists in time and space and is depending on the body. From that perspective, our experience is of a limited mind. And the experience of a limited mind is not happiness, because happiness is the knowingness of our infinity and our eternity, God's grace, God's reality, the recognition that my mind is God's mind. So in this daily life, we are looking for happiness. But when we objectify happiness, in other words, when we integrate within happiness objects and thoughts and feelings and sensations, then we are in the realm of experiences and situations and objects. And there is no end to them. And because the realm of form is limited, the happiness that we experience is limited. So sooner or later, we realize that this waking dream is about understanding that the understanding of the reality of this experience, this understanding that permeates your entire feeling state, not just an understanding that is academic, that is intellectual, or that is partial understanding, but an understanding that completely permeates your entire feeling state, your entire being. The entire realm is God's realm, meaning nothing is missing in it. There aren't some people who are favored, the favorite team, the A team, and everybody else is the B team. There isn't. That's not how it is. There aren't people who are better off at awakening and others who are not. The entire field is God's grace, God's dream, God's being. And we have available to us all what is needed to comprehend the true nature of I. There is a direct understanding that I does not refer to any object. that I refers to itself. That within I, there is the knowingness of I. It does not require thinking. Built in within I, within God's grace, God's mind, is its own radiance, its own knowingness, its own being. The night dream is available to us as a pedagogical tool. It's a wonderful gift from God. It helps the separate self to understand that it can perceive within the dream all sorts of forms, all sorts of characters, dream characters in the night dream. It can experience being these characters and perceiving through the eyes of these characters, through the mind of these characters, perceiving various worlds, and waking up in the morning and realizing that was all a dream. It's a powerful metaphor, very real metaphor that we live every night. Every night we dream that one day we are a bird, or one night we're a bird, and then 10 minutes later we're a little girl, and then we're a 40-year-old man, and then we're some weird shape. Who knows what, all sorts of characters we dream that we are, and we dream that we're perceiving their perceptions. And it's possible when we wake up, if we reflect about it, to understand that in fact we were dreaming all of that, meaning the mind, the content of the mind of the characters in our dream, their content, the content of their mind was nothing else but my mind, the dreamer's mind. Let me repeat that. The content of the dreamt character's mind is actually the content of my mind. Because I am dreaming that character, and from that character's point of view, they're perceiving their world, but in fact it is my world, I'm creating it. So in the waking dream, it is possible to use that powerful analogy to understand that everything that you perceive via your personal mind is God's perception. It is God that is perceiving through infinite minds many worlds. The squirrel's world, the rabbit's world, the cat's world, the worm's world, the fish's world, your world, my world. The reality of your experience is not in your experience. It is in the knowingness, in God's knowingness. I know, I am, I know, I perceive, I know, I am aware. This I, when you look at this I, you will not find Rashmi, you will not find Magdi, you will not find a name, you will only find I, which is God's I. There's only one I, there's only one self, which is God's infinite being. God's eternity and infinity is this I. And we superimpose onto this I a costume, make this costume. Say, okay. We superimpose onto God's infinity the limitation of the personal mind. And that is ignorance. That is the sense of limitation. And this superimposition is not a real superimposition, because God, there is no costume that can fit God's universal consciousness. There's no costume. No outfit can define it. You cannot know it as somebody or as something. It is the knowingness that knows itself. I know I am. I know I am aware.
Thank you. That's really helpful. Something you said, everybody has the same capacity to wake up. Why is it then some people are seekers for like 30, 40 years, and then other people, they're not even seeking to wake up and they spontaneously wake up? Is it something to do with karma or?
Mm-hmm. It's important to understand, Rashmi, that from the perspective of consciousness, there is only consciousness, only the reality of the self. There are no actuality or reality to people waking up. Although I would not deny that there is a content of mind, the content of this mind, the content of that mind, that is made out of thinking and feeling, that perceives, that within it there is thinking about people waking up and people not waking up. So there are like two perspectives. There is the divine perspective, the perspective of consciousness, where there are no separate selves. And so there's no reality outside of consciousness. There is no reality to people waking up or not waking up. And from the relative perspective, meaning from the perspective of a particular mind, which again is God's dream, because God is dreaming all characters, and as well as the content of their mind, the content of these characters' minds. There is the relative, there is happiness and unhappiness, there is time and space. It's important for you to understand that from God's point of view, there is no time. It's just the eternity of being. Time is a result of thought, meaning it's the human mind's experience. Yesterday, tomorrow, memory, images, the human mind's experience. It's experience of mind, the content of mind is time. And similarly, space has to do with perception, meaning it is within the realm of mind, perceiving via the senses, sensing. God has no eyes and no ears, no nose. Awareness is not a form, it's not an object. So it's important first to understand that from the perspective of mind, there is this question about people taking 30 years to awaken, and people taking 20 years to awaken, and people taking 1,000,000 lifetimes to awaken, and what is the role of karma? Maybe this karma. Well, you know what? Everything is karma. You could say everything is karma, depending on what you mean by karma. There is no order outside of God's order. There is no creation outside of God's creation. Karma refers to personal self, that there is a certain cause and effect realm that is operating in the human realm. Cause and effect gives power to a certain to the mind, within the mind. For example, you drop a glass on a rock and it's going to break. There's a cause and effect. If you are acting negatively in life, you will be born again to live in regret and correct, your past karma, or you live the consequences of your past karma. All of that is content of mind. God has no mind and no content of mind. Or one could say everything is God's mind. So you're applying, well, let me put it this way. If we mix God's mind with the human mind, I mean, God's mind being the eternity of being, we try to apply the conditions of karma onto God's creativity, it does not apply. Because karma still refers to the realm of experience, meaning to the realm of mentations, sensations, and perceptions. It does not apply to God's creativity. So I'm going to maybe backtrack a little bit to the initial part of your question, where I was talking about the direct path and the progressive path. From the progressive point of view, the dream character, if they live dharmically, they will purify their mind, and they will be planting seeds for future harvest. This approach still assumes a reality, a personal reality, meaning a reality to the personal self. And therefore, by assuming it, it's maintaining it and it's trying to improve it. And one could say that that is a direction that will have an outcome. But there is, let's say, available to us the reality of being that cuts through the karmic realm by going directly to the transparency of being, by going directly to the I. Let's say that you, rather than looking down the path of thinking and feeling and good action and bad action and all of that, you cut through all of that and you go directly to the self. You go directly to the reality of being. That path is available to us. The direct recognition that what I am is God's infinite being, that the I is not something perceived, is not something that you experience. It is not an object of experience. The reality of your experience right now is this I that has no name and no age. And no karma applies there. It's a direct recognition that doesn't require time. It's ever available to you. And as this understanding starts to ripen within you, you invite it to permeate your entire feeling state. Like the sunlight shines onto the surface of the lake, shining right through the lake, right through the water, to its depth. Cause and effect assume the model of a subject and object. Cause and effect assumes time, that there is time, and that there is a subject that exists in time, and upon acting in certain ways, there will be an improvement for this subject in time. That model is not the, let's say, the higher model, or the purer model. It is a better model than I am this person and it doesn't matter what I do, and let me try improve my lot, improve my family, improve my kids, improve my home, improve my money. It's a better model, but it's still a model that assumes the carnal mind. It is still carnal. It's still materialistic. And it assumes that there is a reality for a personal character, and an improvement of that personal character. So although it's a better model than the complete ignorance, it's not the direct path. You follow, Rashmi?
Yeah, thank you so much, Magdi.
Okay. Okay. Well, it's 6:30, so I thank you all. Thank John and Zoe, hello Zoe, Richard, Rashmi, thank you, Holly, and Madan, and the Arlop. Very lovely to be with you.
Thank you, Magdi.
Thank you all. Again,
Thank you.
you're welcome. I will be posting the recording within 24 to 48 hours. I usually post it on YouTube and